Welcome back, guys. We're going to do a few more fun things tonight. And here, we're going to work on some pop sockets. Already got them poured in. Already got them sitting. And by the way, just so you know, glitter is the gift that never stops giving. So here is one of the little green slivers that we had in our very first introductory video where we unboxed this fun kit. We're just going to tap it over there onto the silicone sheet, and we'll get it later. Hopefully we got that little guy out of there, maybe not. We will let him carry on because he does not want to leave this mold. So you'll see these gemstones in a few minutes, but these are fun. And we are going to go ahead and pop these bubbles with a lighter. Now be very careful, guys. Like I said, with these thin molds, we don't want to burn the mold itself. We're just going to run it along the edges, get rid of some of these bubbles because this stuff has been sitting for a hot second. We want this to float around like this just because I want to see these pieces float up into the resin. I did not pour the resin all the way to the top because we're going to do a couple different layers in here. And these are pop sockets. They're not meant to be like super thick pieces. So let's go ahead and throw our lamp over there. We're going to do the 99-second cure on these. And these are clear. So the last few videos that we did some mix-ins, we did some dyes, we used the new Signature Crafts mix-in that they sent us to try, and that is their awesome iridescent glitter. That stuff is probably my favorite color so far. So I do love this stuff. Yay, we love sparkly things. I'm so excited. Wait until you see the rest of the rainbow fun that we're going to have, and wait until you see how much fun the festival is going to be. We hope that you all join us. We are only going to be live on Instagram, not on YouTube, but we will post some shorts. And we look forward to hanging out with you this weekend. We're going to be setting up down at Lower Harbor Park in Marquette, Michigan. Vendors get in early. We will be setting up around 10:30. Festival opens between 11 and 12. And so we're going to see how these pop sockets come out. We hope they glow in the dark. We did put some glow in the dark stars and some fun fill-ins in there. And this whole mold is really kind of cool for these pop sockets because it actually fits underneath this Signature Crafts lamp. This lamp is quite large, so you can fit some larger mold pieces under here. And it's kind of nice because with the smaller lamps that I have, I'm not able to do that. So I've got to cure like sections at a time. And my bigger lamp sits on another part of my studio table just to help like extra cure some pieces. Or if I'm working on doming stuff, I will leave the lamp on and running to actually dome off some pieces and get them cured up. And while we wait for this little guy, I'm just kind of messing with it a little bit under here to see how it goes with keeping it nice and straight and level under there. So we are getting a little bit of warping under here. This lamp does get a little bit hot, so you got to kind of be careful with that because some of your stuff can tend to warp. And I did set off the sensor when we were just about done there, so I apologize for that, guys. We're just going to wait a few more seconds because we do know from experience playing with this new Signature Crafts kit that it does take some extra time to cure. So it's totally fine. I'm okay with giving it a few extra minutes because most of these Signature Craft pieces have been taking between 4 and 8 minutes to cure, depending on what type of mold we're using. And in most cases with these thicker molds, I would not be using UV resin, but I did want to play with this to see how long it would take to cure based on what we're mixing into it, whether or not we're using alcohol inks or glitter or any other kind of fill-ins that we're putting. In here, we have some clay piece cutouts, some glow-in-the-dark stars, and some gems in there. These gems are going to be really cool because not only are they UV reactive in the sunlight, but they are also very, very sparkly and faceted. So we're going to go ahead and wait another about 40 seconds here and see what these look like. We'll give them 30 seconds on the other side, and then we'll kind of peel back the mold just so you can kind of see what it looks like when it comes out. Because there are really no mix-ins in this mold right now preventing the resin from reaching one side to the other. When you mix in things like glitter, mica powder, inks, alcohol dyes, those things, or even if you use things like acrylic paint or makeup, which we'll test later, that prevents the light from reaching all the way through the resin to get it to cure. So that will make it take longer to cure, which is why sometimes some of the stuff that you use with UV resin is going to take, you know, upwards of 10 to 12 minutes to cure in a piece that really could take less time if it was clear. So let's pull this lamp away. And I do have acrylic gems and all kinds of fun stuff laying all over my desk here. So again, it is very hot. So I'm assuming that's where the warping is coming from a little bit. And you'll notice that this piece is a little unlevel over here. So that probably is because of the warping that was happening in here. Not the end of the world, because we're going to go ahead and dome off that piece later anyways. We're just going to kind of peel these a little bit away from the mold and see what they look like on the other side. I don't think they're quite cured yet, just because of how thick this mold is. Remember, we talked about in the first video, if you see that shine under there, we're going to rub it with our finger. I recommend you wear gloves when you do this, but I do have stuff all over my hands to begin with anyways. See how my finger's a little shiny? They're not quite done, but because these are not complicated molds, I don't run the risk of breaking edges. So we'll just be gentle, because my God, guys, look at that. Look how sparkly those are. Those are going to be so fun. All right, so we're going to flip that back over. Do that, tap these down, and in here we have some fun glow-in-the-dark stars. Rainbows, because of course we're doing Pride Fest, and clay hearts. And then these clay stars, which are super fun, they also glow in the dark, so that's fun. And all of these neon colors glow in the dark, so that's super fun too. So there's the front sides of these pop sockets. So let's put those down. Let's give this another 30 seconds on this side. So the fun part is, in the meantime, while that's curing, we have a little pot of that Signature Crafts iridescent glitter that we're going to throw on a couple of these. And then we're going to throw some glow-in-the-dark powder onto one of them and see what happens. Glow-in-the-dark powder comes through clear, and it's an ultra-fine powder in the scrapbooking aisle. And so that one is going to do just fine because it runs through clear, so you really can't see it until it glows. And now we're done with that 30 seconds. Let's pull that away. In the meantime, we're mixing up some stuff. We know, oops, we dropped some of that on the mat. Let's get that wiped off quick. Wipe that off. And you can spray it down with a little bit of alcohol with your mister bottle. These mister bottles from Dollar Store are a lifesaver, let me tell you guys. If you don't have a teeny tiny like facial mister bottle, head to the Dollar Tree, grab a couple of these little guys. They will save you a lot of time and hassle and heartache. So, not tacky anymore. Awesome fun stuff. Let's throw this awesome iridescent glitter. So far my favorite color, but we do have other colors to try in other videos. Throw some of that iridescent glitter over the back. Just kind of give it a nice little coating. This is the one that was unlevel. So this is the first one I'm going to do just because it was unlevel to begin with. And we want it to level off. So let's go ahead and just kind of push that around with our stick here. And again, I'm only using the stick for time's sake. When I'm not doing these videos or when I'm doing a longer series, I will use the metal tools because they're much easier to clean and they last a lot longer than these popsicle sticks do, because these sticks can break very easily. All right, that one, we'll just sand off the edges when we're done with that. Let's go back over this guy with some of the glitter. Pour that on there, kind of level that piece off. I like doming these because it creates that 3D effect on there. And this is kind of essentially what we're doing is doming, but we're mixing instead of just clear doming. Clear doming is just pouring straight from the bottle right onto the piece, create that 3D look. Get these kind of flattened out. Because remember, the backs of these are not going to be super visible, even though they are clear, just because we're going to put the pop socket piece on there when they're done. And those are just the round, typical round pop socket things that you see. I like the pull apart ones. They're multi-level phone holder kickstand pop sockets. They're not your typical like twisty offy name brand ones. And push that all the way to the edges to make sure that we don't have any gaps. because we do know that Signature Crafts resin does create, this light cure resin does create a little bit of shrinkage when you cure it. So let's brush the edge of that mold a little bit. Okay, now we're going to keep the glitter because we like the sparkle. However, let's mix in some of this Reflections Glow Powder. The Reflections Glow Powder is super fun. We do have some Travelers, so you will see some green sprinkles, that shredded confetti glitter that we used in that first video. Signature Crafts confetti stuff. I do like it, but again, glitter is the gift that keeps on giving and never stops giving in. Pardon me, guys. It's a little dry in the studio. All right, let's get this domed off a bit. And just kind of spread that around. There it is. See the little traveler? Oof. Pardon me, guys. A little bit dry in here. Get that domed off. Let's push that all the way to the edges. And you don't have to do a really thick layer. Even though you are going to get, whoops, maybe we can get that little traveler out of there. Let's put him on the silicone mat for now, and we'll wipe him off later. We did clean these little silicone cups earlier, but you will always find extra pieces of glitter that you don't need when you least expect them. Push that in, pull the edges up a little bit. Let's kind of grab a Q-tip here, wipe that edge down. So we want to make sure the pop sockets are round and smooth. We don't want weird lopsided pop sockets. Nobody wants a lopsided socket on the back of their phone. Pull that side down. And then we are definitely going to use the glow stuff and the mix in. Some of the glitter stuck to the bottom, so we'll just kind of scrape that a little bit. This glitter does sink a little, which is totally fine. This is that Signature Crafts iridescent stuff. And it is a little cloudy because we put that glow powder in, which is totally cool. Because you won't be able to tell until until you actually put it underneath something to get it to glow. So let's slide that around, fill that in a little bit. And if you don't have enough, instead of mixing up a whole thing, if you just need to fill in a little space, there's nothing wrong with dropping in just a little bit of straight clear resin on there, because it's going to cause the rest of this to spread pretty well. And sometimes if you pour a little much in one and not enough in the other, you can always just scoop from one to the other if you're working with the same color. So we're going to just kind of scrape that from side to side a little bit, push it out. I'm not quite liking the way this is sitting, so what we'll do is drop a little bit of this UV resin in the corners, which, oxymoron, no corners in a circle, but that's okay. Just kind of swirl it in there a little bit to fill that edge in, because it's kind of shrunk away from the side a little. And what I would do, because we're just mixing some of this glitter back in with it, I'll just kind of scoop it around and then pull it back towards the edges. So that way there's not like clear swirls in there, and it's all consistently mixed with the glitter. You will see some sparkling. Kind of almost looks like little fireworks in there. Those are bubbles floating to the top with glitter in them and then popping. So that can happen too. Let's pull these together. And I generally don't go back and look for bubbles when I'm working with this much glitter, just because you're not going to notice them nearly as much with glitter. But if you're working with something that's clear, you will. And because this is not completely clear, and there is quite a bit of that Reflections glow dust in here, I dumped actually quite a bit. And honestly, sparkles are totally fun, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with putting in some more and filling it in. as long as you're not working with a black or something uber dark, the resin should have enough room to get through to the other side. Let's get these edges nice and cleaned up. So we're not doing extra work. Work smarter, not harder, guys. Learn from everyone else on the interweb and try to scrape your edges down when you're doing stuff like this. It'll save you a lot of hassle later and prevent you from having to sand and polish and sand and polish, which can happen quite a bit. All right, we're ready to go ahead and cure this. Let's throw the lamp back on there. We're just going to toss it on sideways. You guys get the idea. Let's give it some 99-second cure time, and we will definitely come back in just a second when this is cured, guys. All right, guys, welcome back. We pulled these out of the molds. Not going to lie, took another about 10-15 minutes to get these done. The reason being, I pulled these out, and they were still a little bit tacky. Wound up having to get some of the edges off because the edges were a little bit rough on here. Sanded those down. Did another doming coat. This one probably could use a little bit more red in here just to dome it off. This is what the finished product winds up looking like. So these things are pretty neat. And they are the 2-tier phone holder pop sockets, not the twisty kind that you're used to buying in the stores. Still have the little adhesive backers on them. Whoop, that glue is not dry yet, clearly. So we did Gorilla Glue these onto the back. I did not UV these on. I probably could have. However, I wanted to tack the top off a little bit more. And so this is ultimately what they're going to look like when they're done. Lesson learned, guys. So when you're using things like UV resin, just make sure that you're using a resin that's designed for a deeper pour. Now, I like to mess with things and experiment with stuff. No big deal. Not the end of the world for me. I wanted to play with this just to see how far I could push the boundaries of the thickness of the pores on these. Not necessarily just because I thought that that's what it was for. Now, just keep in mind that the thicker the pour, the longer the cure with the UV resin. I am a 2-part epoxy girl, so I do get into UV from here from time to time to fix things, to dome things off, to make it look shiny, to hold these pieces together and put them in before I do stuff. And I do put pretty cool little inserts and labels into some of my stuff that I'll show you when I get to the show on Saturday. But for the most part, I do a deeper pour resin style and then use the UV in addition to that because they complement each other. They can be used together. But when you're using strictly UV resin, and if you are deciding to go and try the Signature Crafts resin, just remember that you got to have patience if you really want to use this stuff with a thicker mold. Otherwise, make sure that you're using something thinner, or if you want to make your own buttons, which we're going to be starting to make buttons here pretty quick. And the buttons can be done, like we talked about in another video, with the paper stickers or the metallic stickers. So there's lots of different cool applications you can use for this, and we'll kind of touch on that when we do more resin videos down the road. The next ones we're going to be doing are going to be ribbons and glitter and tulle and all kinds of other fun stuff. So stay tuned for sparkles and colors and keep letting that sparkle shine, guys.